Hello and welcome to the first edition of the Digital Strategy Newsletter. My name is Martin Broadhurst and I would like to thank you for subscribing and for clicking on this video, because quite frankly, if you hadn't have done, this would have been a massive waste of my time. Over the coming weeks and months, I'm going to be using this newsletter to examine all elements of great digital strategy development. From understanding our current situation and identifying our strengths and weaknesses, to defining great objectives, through to execution and review of our campaigns, to refine and make sure we're hitting our goals. We'll be exploring all of it. And there'll be a lot of blue sky thinking, and there'll be some deep dive into some of those specific tactics, and we will get quite granular. I'll be having interviews with organisations that I think are doing great work when it comes to digital strategy. And I'll be highlighting some interesting case studies that I come across day to day to show you some of the best practices that I think we can take into our own businesses. Today, I specifically want to explore how we set objectives. And I want to look at objective setting frameworks. And there's one of those in particular that I really want to highlight. And that is the 5S framework. Now, the 5S framework might not mean anything to you, but it was devised by Dr. Dave Chaffee and PR Smith. Now, if you don't know who those two guys are, don't worry about it. I consider them the godfathers of digital strategy. Because quite frankly, well, they literally wrote the book on it. PR Smith is the author and creator of the SOSTAC Strategic Development Framework. And Dr. Dave Chaffee has written, well, he's been writing tomes on digital marketing and digital strategy for over 2 decades now. Now, these two guys came up with the 5S framework. Each one of the S's represents a facet or a new way in which we can think about digital improving our business. So often businesses think about digital marketing and digital strategy and think, how can we sell more? But there's so much more that digital can do for our businesses. And the 5S framework lays out 5 key areas that we want to consider when devising our digital strategy. So what are the 5 S's? Well, number 1 is sell. How do we sell more stuff using digital? How do we create new routes to market? How do we create new storefronts? How do we sell more stuff? It's as simple as that. The next is serve. How do we better serve our customers through digital technology? How do we create channel shift? So instead of people ringing our call centres, they self-serve on our websites. Next is save. How can digital help us save time, effort, and energy in our business? Now, this is an often overlooked element, and quite often it can join with one of the other areas. For example, with serve, if we can create channel shift and make it so that people no longer call our call centres, which can be expensive to operate, and instead they're able to self-serve using our website, or they use live chat, we can reduce the cost per customer interaction whilst improving customer satisfaction. The next is speak. How do we improve the way that we communicate with our customers? How do we create more personalised content? How do we create more two-way dialogue rather than having a one-way stream of messaging? And finally, my favourite element of the 5S framework is sizzle. How do we add a bit of sizzle to our brand? Sell the sizzle, not the sausage, is what they say. So we think about the 5S's and the sizzle element, and we think, how can we use digital to extend our brand, to create new and interesting customer experiences, to create entirely new value propositions for our customers? That is where things get really interesting. To bring all of this to life, I'd like to bring to you one example, one admittedly fairly large corporation, who I think in one single project has been able to encapsulate all elements of the 5S framework. And that company, you've probably heard of them, is Disney. Specifically, the Disney theme parks. Now in 2013, Disney announced they were launching an initiative called the MagicBand. Now MagicBand is a wristband which contains a RFID chip, that's a radio frequency identification chip. It means that you can go around and tap the wristband onto different elements to check into a ride or check into a room at your hotel. You can pay for things, use it. It's very much like contactless technology that we use for our credit and debit cards. Now, this MagicBand has completely revolutionized the way that people interact and engage with the Disney brand when at the Disney World resorts. And I'd like to kind of break that down using the 5S framework and show you how MagicBand has improved customer experience at Disney World. Number 1, sell. How has Disney MagicBand enabled them to sell more stuff? Well, every account is linked to an individual and every band is linked to an account, and those accounts are loaded with Disney dollars, which are then used to spend around the park, effectively creating this cashless world where transactions happen almost as if by magic. And when they rolled out the MagicBand in one of their first parks in 2014, the trial period saw an uplift in park revenue of 6%. Now, executives said this couldn't entirely be put down to the MagicBand, but they did say it had a significant contributing factor. The MagicBand enables people to make reservations quickly, it enables you to prepay for food and drinks, and it enables you to buy the photo passes for the roller coaster rides without even really thinking about it. They've basically removed all of the friction associated with a typical transaction. So of course, people spend a little bit more. 2, serve. MagicPass has enabled them to better service their customers in some quite interesting ways. Now, the example I want to give is that of FastPass. If you've ever been to a theme park and you've queued for a roller coaster ride, you'll know you can spend a lot of time standing in that queue line. And that's where FastPass tickets come in. They enable you to effectively book a time slot to arrive at the ride, thus beating the long queue and being able to jump on with very little waiting time. Prior to MagicBand coming into force, that meant that as a visitor, you had to go to the ride you wanted to get on and actually get a FastPass from the ride. That would then tell you the time that you needed to come back. Now, what this meant was visitors would arrive at the park, they would then sprint round the park collecting FastPass tickets, returning to their family with all of their time slots in their hand. But that wasn't a great experience. You had to go off on your own, collecting these passes, eating into your time on park. But with the MagicBand, you were able to pre-book all of your time slots. And then when you needed to go to the ride and beat the queue, you simply tapped your MagicBand. You did what they call Mickey to Mickey, beep, and then you jump straight on the ride. 3, save. The savings for Disney are quite significant in terms of operational efficiency, specifically workforce logistics. Across the Disney resorts, they are organising 240,000 shifts per week for 80,000 staff. It is a huge logistical undertaking. But with the MagicBand, they're able to get insight in real time and use big data to identify demand, identifying peak hotspots in the park, and then they can use that to direct people around the park where demand is lower. They can also use that insight to schedule the staff shifts in a much more efficient way, reducing employee wastage and creating a better, more efficient system for everyone. It's simple, but it works. Number 4 is speak. How has the MagicBand enabled Disney to create better experiences that are personalised to the individual and shape better two-way dialogue? Well, one simple way is by personalising the experiences based on preferences, but also they've incorporated personalisation into some of the rides themselves. For example, the much loved and sometimes loathed ride It's a Small World has an element of personalisation as people leave the ride. After experiencing all of the small little animatronic children singing It's a Small World, when visitors leave the ride, the digital display screens say goodbye Emma or goodbye Martin as they leave the ride, creating a nice personalised touch, all enabled through the RFID chip on the Disney Band. And finally, sizzle. Well, there's so much sizzle in this story that it's hard to know where to begin. The entire customer experience has been transformed using Disney's MagicBand. From creating personalised queue line experiences to reducing the friction associated with common transactions across the entire park. The whole experience sizzles with Disney Magic. I think it's incredible. One of the great little ideas that I like from the MagicBand is that as families are walking around the park, occasionally the Disney princess or Goofy or whichever character it is might go up to a family and, without any forewarning, say, "Hi Tim, hi Tommy, hi Emma, hi kids." They'll personalise the experience. They know their name. Why? Because they've just interacted with something and the park knows who they are at any given time. It's Disney magic, but it's also maybe a little bit creepy. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you've been to the Disney parks and experienced MagicBand, how did you find the experience? Did you love it? Apparently, since implementation, 90% of customers say they are satisfied, highly satisfied with the Disney Band or Disney MagicBand experience. Let me know your thoughts. Email me. Leave a comment on my Twitter, send me a message on LinkedIn. You know where I am. You've got my email address. You've subscribed to this. I'd love to know your thoughts. Keep an eye out for the next edition and stay safe, because that's what we say now. Goodbye.